Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the English Podcast and Patterns. Last week, we got stuck on a video call, and everyone started tossing around phrases like winged it and knocked it out of the park. Even though the grammar was simple, you could see some faces freeze, like they understood the words, but the meaning just slipped by.
That's the invisible wall, isn't it? You can memorize every verb tense, but when someone drops an idiom, suddenly you're an outsider. I've seen students ace written tests, but in a real chat, they hesitate or just smile politely, missing the joke.
It feels so unfair. I remember thinking, if I just learn more vocabulary, maybe I'll finally get it. But then, someone says something like spill the beans, and I'm lost again. It's like there's a secret code.
Here's the takeaway. Textbook English gives you the rules, but real conversations run on shortcuts, inside jokes, and cultural references. That's why idioms are almost like superpowers. They unlock a whole new level of connection.
And it's not just about sounding fluent. There's research showing that native speakers use idiomatic expressions every few minutes in casual speech. If you miss those, you miss the heart of the conversation.
So, is it even possible to feel like you belong without knowing these expressions? Or will there always be that gap, no matter how much grammar you study?
If you've ever felt left out because of a phrase you didn't catch, you're not alone. That moment of confusion is exactly what we're digging into, because bridging that gap is what turns learners into real conversationalists. Only after 2 iterations, we realized that saying, "Could you assist me with this task?" made us sound like robots. Swapping it for, "Can you give me a hand?" instantly changed the vibe. People actually smiled and jumped in.
That's a great point. There's research showing that informal requests, like "I could use a second pair of eyes," increase the likelihood of collaboration by about 30%. It signals you value the other person's input, not just their labor.
But what if you're worried about coming across as needy? Sometimes I hesitate to ask for help because I don't want to seem like I can't handle things myself.
It's a balance. If you frame it as teamwork, let's tackle this together, you're inviting partnership, not just asking for a favor. That's the difference between sounding capable and sounding lost.
And when it comes to invitations, the wording matters just as much. For example, "Who's up for coffee?" feels open and inclusive, while "Would you like to join me for coffee at 3:15?" can sound stiff or even a bit transactional.
I've noticed that too. When I say, "Want to hang out after this?" people are way more likely to say yes than if I try to plan every detail up front.
Here's the takeaway. Casual language isn't just about sounding friendly. It's about lowering barriers so people feel comfortable jumping in, whether it's for help or just to grab a coffee. Only after 2 iterations, we realized that asking anything new going on actually gets people to share stories, not just say fine. That's a huge shift from the old "how are you?" routine.
That's true, and I've noticed that when I ask about someone's weekend plans, it almost always leads to a real conversation. According to a 2023 workplace survey, 68% of respondents said they feel more connected to colleagues after sharing personal anecdotes sparked by these kinds of questions.
But what if you're worried it'll sound forced? Like, if you ask, "How was the commute?" and the person just shrugs, isn't that awkward?
It can be, but the trick is to follow up with something specific. For example, if they mention traffic, you could say, "I heard the subway was delayed again. Did that affect you?" That shows you're actually listening.
And sometimes switching to pop culture works better. Asking, "Have you seen any good shows lately?" is more current, especially since streaming recommendations are a common bonding point now.
Do you think these openers work everywhere? Or are there places where they'd feel out of place? Like, would you use them in a formal meeting?
Context matters. In some cultures or formal settings, it's safer to start with neutral topics like weather or recent events. But even then, phrasing it as, "Did you catch the sunrise this morning?" can feel more personal than just, "Nice weather, huh?"
Here's the takeaway. Small talk isn't about the question itself, but about opening a door. If your tone is genuinely curious, even a simple question can make someone feel like an insider.
Only after 2 iterations, we realized how often people use "let's play it by ear" when plans are up in the air. It's almost a default for handling uncertainty, but it also signals flexibility, like, "I'm open to whatever happens."
That's interesting because in some cultures, being so non-committal could seem evasive. But here, it's almost reassuring, like you're not alone in the chaos. I've noticed "something came up" is another go-to, but it can sound vague or even suspicious if overused.
Last week, we got stuck on a canceled trip, and my friend just texted, "Yikes!" It made me laugh, even though I was disappointed. Those little exclamations, like bummer or totally gutted, really show how much or how little you're affected.
Here's the takeaway. That's a bummer is for minor setbacks, but totally gutted is reserved for bigger blows. The intensity matters. It's almost like a scale using the wrong one can make you seem out of touch or overly dramatic.
Can you explain that in more detail? For example, if someone loses a job, would "that's a bummer" feel dismissive compared to "I'm gutted for you"?
Exactly. Bummer is for missing a bus, not losing a job. The language you choose signals empathy, and people pick up on those cues fast.
I love how turning the page or water under the bridge can help move things forward. It's like saying, let's not dwell on it, but in a gentle way. My grandma uses a phrase in her language that means almost the same thing.
Are there risks in being too casual, though? Sometimes, using light phrases might make someone feel their feelings aren't taken seriously.
That's a real risk. Matching the phrase to the moment is key, otherwise, you lose trust. But when it's done right, these idioms can build camaraderie and help everyone bounce back. Only after 2 iterations, we realize that saying "I winged it" can actually sound more impressive than admitting you meticulously planned every detail. It's like people admire a bit of bold improvisation.
That's true, but I've noticed in surveys that about 60% of professionals prefer hearing "knocked it out of the park" over "nailed it." They say it feels more energetic and less self-congratulatory.
But if you use those phrases too much, don't you risk sounding fake? Like, if every project is knocked out of the park, does it even mean anything anymore?
Exactly. Idioms lose their punch if they're sprinkled everywhere. The trick is to match the phrase to the moment, save "nailed it" for when you really did something special, not just finished your emails.
And when it's time to wrap up, I love how "take it easy" or "catch you later" can signal a friendly, relaxed ending. But in a formal setting, "take care" or even just "goodbye" might be safer.
I always wonder if "stay chill" is too casual for work. Like, would you say that to your boss? Or is it just for friends?
Here's the takeaway. Idioms are like seasoning. Use them to add flavor, not to cover up the whole dish. Try picking one new phrase this week and see how it lands. And remember, the best sign-off is the one that fits your style and the moment. Thanks for joining us. Catch you next time.
Welcome to our chat today. We're diving into how to ditch the textbook vibe and, really speak English like a native, you know? Imagine being in a video call where someone says, "I totally winged it, but somehow still knocked it out of the park."
Yeah, that's it. Right, it's all about those real-life phrases that make conversations flow naturally. What's the main idea behind this approach?
So the concept is simple. Many of us aced formal English tests and know the grammar inside out. But then when a chat turns casual, we suddenly freeze. The magic is in those quirky idioms and expressions that native speakers practically throw around without a second thought.
Exactly. Right. And these phrases, they're like shortcuts in conversation, aren't they? They help create connection and authenticity.
Absolutely. It's like, they're the seasoning in your language. Instead of sounding stiff or rehearsed, these idioms give you that natural flavor. Think of phrases like, "anything new going on?" or "how was the commute?" They open the door to deeper chats.
Yeah, that's spot on. I love that analogy. Like seasoning reminds you that a pinch here and a dash there make everything taste better in conversation. But don't you think sometimes too many idioms can sound overdone?
That's a fair point. There's definitely a balance. The idea is to sprinkle them naturally, not cram a sentence full of them. You, want it to sound spontaneous, like tossing in just the right amount of flavor.
Right.
For example, there are sections focusing on small talk starters. Picture asking someone, "Caught any good shows lately?" instead of the old, boring, "how's the weather?" It makes conversations more relatable and engaging.
Yeah, it's a great hook. It really flips the script, huh? It gets people to share stories rather than just a one-word reply. That's so effective in building rapport.
Exactly. And then there are phrases for asking for help like, "Can you give me a hand?" which sounds so much more friendly than a formal request. The content really emphasizes sounding confident yet humble.
Agreed, it's all about striking that balance. I particularly like the bit about using symbols to represent certain phrases creatively, like the one for asking a second pair of eyes on something. It shows that language can be playful, even in professional settings.
Oh, totally, yeah. That approach makes language feel like a living thing, vivid, evolving, and personal. It encourages you to move away from rigid textbook language and embrace conversational spontaneity.
And then there are those casual invitations. Want to hang out after this? Or who's up for coffee? I mean, they completely remove the formal barrier, don't they?
Right. Exactly. They invite connection without overwhelming you with clumsy formalities. And then there's the section on handling changes mid-chat, like when plans shift unexpectedly. Something came up, or let's play it by ear. These expressions totally capture the unpredictability of modern
Indeed,
life.
because life is never as planned as we think. Speaking of which, I really liked the way the content talked about emotional reactions. Expressions like no way or yikes convey so much with just 2 words. They capture moments of surprise or disappointment effortlessly.
Yeah, it's fascinating how these idioms pack such punch. Even phrases for expressing disappointment like totally gutted or expressing happiness like on cloud nine create that vivid emotional picture.
Exactly, they're mini emotional story snapshots. I also find it interesting that the material doesn't just list phrases, but groups them by context. It covers everything from casual invites to recovering from setbacks, and even congratulatory success terms like nailed it or crushed the deadline.
Oh, absolutely. It gives you a complete toolkit. And there's a fun challenge thrown in, a quick practice drill where you pick 3 idioms and make your own mini sentences. That hands-on element really makes a difference in learning actively.
Yeah, hands-on practice always boosts retention. You know, while I totally see the benefits, I do sometimes wonder if learners might feel overwhelmed by 50 at a time. Isn't there a risk of trying to use too many in one go?
That's a solid critique. The advice here is clear, though. Use them sparingly, like, 1 or 2 per conversation. It's about quality, not quantity. Overloading a sentence with idioms can sound forced and, frankly, a bit chaotic.
Right, it's like too many spices can ruin a dish.
Exactly. It's like with a great meal. You need just enough seasoning to enhance the flavor without overwhelming it.
Now, shifting gears a bit, what did you make of the section on parting words? I'm all for casual goodbyes like catch you later, peace out, or stay chill. They really round off a conversation on a relaxed note.
Oh yeah, those phrases almost make the goodbye an art form on its own. They keep the warmth alive. The idea is to end on a high vibe, making sure the conversational connection remains. It's a beautiful blend of casual and thoughtful.
Definitely, it's like leaving a party feeling good about the night.
And then there's the mid-roll call to action, which is clever. It suggests that if you learned even one new expression, you should subscribe and comment with 50. It's almost like a secret handshake.
Right? It's a smart way to build community and encourage active engagement. It turns learning into an interactive process rather than just passive listening.
Exactly. And the anecdote about Ricardo from São Paulo is so inspiring. It shows that when you start using these idioms naturally, you truly transform how people perceive you in a conversation. His quick, off-the-cuff use of play it by ear landed him an incredible opportunity.
That's pretty motivating. Totally. It's proof that authenticity can actually make a real difference in your career. But wouldn't you agree that sometimes the pressure to sound native might push learners to overthink rather than just enjoy a conversation?
I can see that point. It's definitely a delicate balance, aiming for natural ease without overloading your speech with rehearsed idioms. The key is to use them to enhance conversation, not as a crutch. It's like, letting your personality shine while sprinkling in a bit of cultural flavor.
Exactly. Balance is the key. That makes sense. And I love how the content is structured in neat groups, from casual greetings to asking for help, and then even recovering from life's little punches. It's very comprehensive. It almost feels like you've got an entire conversational roadmap right at your fingertips.
Absolutely. It's comprehensive, yet digestible. The whole idea is to help learners transform from feeling like they're missing the secret handshake into actually joining the club. Imagine being so fluent that you're not silently Googling a phrase mid-conversation.
Yeah, that's the dream.
And, the final challenge to watch a 5-minute sitcom clip and jot down the idioms really brings home the importance of context. Hearing them in real time with natural dialogue while seeing subtitles reinforces how these expressions are used naturally.
Right, contextual learning is so effective. I also appreciate the nuance on advising learners not to cram all of these idioms into one go. It really highlights that less is more. It's all about making every phrase count and integrating them seamlessly into conversation.
Exactly. And throughout the content, there's an emphasis on authenticity. It's not about sounding like a robot spitting textbook phrases, but making language feel like music
Yeah, like
with
turning
rhythm
language
and
into a
flow.
melody.
Right. It's like each idiom is a catchy hook. And when you use them naturally, they create a soulful, genuine conversation, one that connects deeply with people. It's very empowering.
Speaking of empowerment, the content really encourages taking risks, like winging it during presentations, and then celebrating that success with expressions like nailed it or knocked it out of the park. It reinforces that trying, even if imperfect, is a step towards mastery.
Yes, it's all about celebrating progress instead of perfection. And it makes a great point. The journey to fluency is filled with these little victories that build your confidence over time.
Absolutely, every win matters. So, if you were to sum it up in a phrase, would you say that the secret here is to be spontaneous, authentic, and, just chill?
Exactly, it's about breaking free from a rigid textbook mindset and embracing the naturally fluid, fun aspects of conversation. In the end, you're not just learning language, you're learning, well, life, how to communicate with confidence and warmth.
Right on. I love it. And I think the takeaway is clear. Master a few key idioms, practice them in context, and soon enough, you'll go from sounding like you're reading off a textbook to chatting like a
Yep,
native.
totally. Exactly. So, to all those out there feeling a bit lost without the secret handshake, dive into these expressions, experiment with them, and most importantly, enjoy the process. It's all about making language work for you, turning it into a conversation full of personality and authenticity.
Absolutely, that's the real key. Well said. All right, listeners, whether you're picking up idioms to spice up your coffee break chats or to ace that next big presentation, remember, keep practicing and don't be afraid to wing it
Right? Because
sometimes.
that's when you nail it. Thanks for tuning in today. Stay chill and catch you later.
Take it easy, everyone.